And welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast. I am Randy Andy Datson in a just realized very unironed shirt. And over there is SP3 in a lovely Hawaii, white shirt with some lovely tropical palm tree patterns. We were going to be talking about Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, and we may still do that. But in the last hour, as many people have mentioned in the chat, and hopefully the thumbnail changed, Pete was trying to change it very quickly, we are going to be talking about the fact that Triple H is actually back. A couple of, I would say maybe a month ago, almost 2 months ago now, he said he was back, and no one knew what that meant. And I don't think that this is what it meant, but now he's actually back, and WWE have appointed him the EVP of Talent Relations, I believe. Which is John Laurinaitis' old job, which could mean that he's definitely gone. What are your immediate thoughts on this, Sid? And then we'll get into exactly what WWE have said.
This is something that I kind of was wondering about when they first put Bruce Pritchard in the interim role after all the allegations went down and they said John Laurinaitis was on administrative leave of absence. I was just wondering, I was like, this was like a week after the Triple H said he was back at the Performance Center. I was like, well, this is the perfect role for Triple H. He's done so much with bringing in different talent from, the independent scene, building up NXT. And then when you look at the main roster now, it's a whole bunch of people that up and down the card is from NXT that Triple H had a hand in bringing into the company. So it only made sense for him to take on this role as the EVP of Talent Relations and working directly with the talent, especially more than Bruce Pritchard, because Bruce Pritchard has gone on record on many of podcasts to say he hates that job. So it was a conflict of interest with him being the talent relations role as well as executive director of creative, that it just made sense to give the role to Triple H. So I think this is a great move for WWE, and I understand why people are so happy within Titan Towers.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Triple H is someone that a lot of talent, whenever you hear backstage reports about Triple H's sort of relationship with the talent, it is always incredibly positive. People are also incredibly positive about Stephanie McMahon. Now, let's say, for example, Vince McMahon has to step down and he actually leaves WWE, in which case you would be left with Stephanie McMahon as the CEO and Triple H as head of talent relations. Now, whether in that case they get rid of Bruce Pritchard because he's a Vince guy and he's not a them guy. But if that's the case, then the sort of the feeling in WWE between talent might just kind of be the highest it's ever been. The morale might just go up to a point where it's pretty much unrecognizable. Especially in recent memory. I mean, you've got at the top Stephanie McMahon, and there might be some people in the back who aren't that fond of her, but generally it sounds like she is popular. Triple H is definitely a popular figure in the back. Now, I don't know. I don't know what this means. I don't know whether this means anything has changed with the Vince situation. I don't know. I don't think it has. I know it sounds like lots of places are sort of preparing stories on Vince. Do you think that this is anything significant has happened, or is this simply a situation where they've gone, oh, well, Bruce really cannot do every single job because Bruce Pritchard is very much a yes man in the eyes of a lot of people, and he will just do whatever Vince tells him to do. But do you reckon they just realized maybe Bruce Pritchard can't do 14 jobs at once, and maybe we need someone in who can do that, and Triple H was an obvious choice, especially as, I'm not saying it's nepotism because he's obviously got such a history in wrestling and lots of people like him, but now that Stephanie McMahon is the interim CEO, do you think this is a Stephanie appointment, or is this everyone decided that this was the best for business?
Yeah, I think it's more the latter, that everybody kind of saw that, Bruce Pritchard, he can't wear that many hats. And like I said, he doesn't enjoy that role. Like, you already have him as the executive director. And that's why when, this whole situation has happened with Vince McMahon, everybody said that the Stephanie McMahon becoming the interim CEO and chairwoman, that was more of a cosmetic thing. And you could kind of see that Vince McMahon still had his strings that he was pulling with in that, even with Stephanie in the interim CEO position. And that's why I say if Vince is going to step down from head of creative, it's going to be Bruce Pritchard that kind of takes that role, because that's another cosmetic thing where Vince will still be able to pull the strings, because like you just said, Bruce Pritchard is a yes man, and he's going to have Vince in his ear regardless of Vince in the position or not. With the talent relations role, I think that this was maybe a collective decision by the company that just was like, well, Triple H has a fantastic relationship with everyone involved. Bruce Pritchard doesn't want to do this role. This is the perfect person to kind of take on the role. Maybe the reason why, they waited and they let Bruce take over when John Laurinaitis went on administrative leave is they wanted to make sure with Triple H, because he had all that health scare last year with the cardiac arrest. Then they wanted to ease him back into things and not give him the biggest role possible, and a role that he's been prepping for all these years, since about 2008 he was in creative, and then 2011 he kind of took on the role of talent relations. So he's been doing this for well over a decade now. So this is a position that he is well equipped for. Is similar in the same fashion to Stephanie McMahon. That's a position, CEO and chairwoman, that she's been prepping for pretty much her whole life. And Triple H, I think that this is just the perfect role, and that's why everybody is very excited about this, because the talent love him. Everyone in Titan Towers loves him. This is the perfect person to be the liaison between the talent and management.
And you've got to wonder, I guess, whether there will be a sort of tinfoil hat brigade, which is perhaps wondering if this is a Vince McMahon move, whether he is now feeling threatened to the point where he's thinking, I've got to get as much of my immediate family into the highest positions as possible. We've already got Stephanie at the top. I mean, I can't see Shane coming back right now, but then again, the last couple of months have been completely insane, so you never know what could happen. Having Triple H and Stephanie McMahon in arguably two of the biggest, well, certainly I would say two of the top 5 biggest positions in the entire company. I guess Nick Khan and Bruce Pritchard probably occupy the others. But do you think there will be some people who might be wondering whether this is a Vince McMahon move?
Yeah, they're definitely going to be looking for Vince's fingerprints all over this, because this is kind of Vince kind of laying out the foundation for what's going to happen when the investigation is over. And immediately when the press release came out and we saw the quote from Vince McMahon, I felt like that quote was more or less like preparing himself for everything. When Stephanie took on the interim CEO and chairwoman position, I was like, is this a move for now, or is this a move to make it a smooth transition for when the whole investigation comes out? Because we had the $3 million allegation, then we had the big one with 4 people for $12 million. More is going to come out of this. You now got HBO Real Sports doing an investigation on it and wanting to interview these actual women, which is going to be horrible for WWE's PR. So I think you can put on your tinfoil hat and kind of see the fingerprints of Vince McMahon kind of prepping things for what's going to happen in the next couple of months.
Yeah, I mean, and from a personal standpoint, I can't see Vince stepping down no matter what comes out of this. But that's not to say he won't be forced out of office, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that the board can sort of hold a vote and they can push him out of office, but I cannot see Vince McMahon personally going, yes, I take full responsibility for my actions. I'm in the wrong, especially what we've seen in the last few weeks with him coming out on TV going, hello everyone, and the entire crowd sort of soaking it up, sort of praising him, because he'll see that and go, look, the fans, the loyal fans, they still love me. And if you and there's a huge portion of WWE fans who don't read wrestling news, and while they may be aware of something happening, they aren't aware of exactly what's gone on. And to a lot of people, unfortunately, even what he's been accused of isn't a big deal, when it absolutely should be. But to a lot of people, it isn't a big deal. Now, I think it is time for him to leave. I would like him personally to step down. This is a personal opinion. This is not the WrestleTalk opinion, although I know other people share it. But do you think that this time next year, for example, Vince McMahon will still be in charge of WWE? And if so, will anything have changed?
Like you said, not everyone is, aware of Vince McMahon's history. So when you do know Vince McMahon's history, I don't think any of these allegations very much surprise anybody. The thing that would surprise everyone is if he actually steps down. So that's why anytime I've been asked this question since these allegations started, I was like, I don't see a world where Vince McMahon is completely, away from WWE unless he passed away. I think that's been my answer for well over a decade now, that Vince McMahon will finally step away from WWE when he is like physically unable to. That's the only way I can see it happening. So yeah, sadly, I agree with you that yeah, the right move is to remove him from head of creative, and maybe, for now, call it an administrative leave of absence. Maybe you can make that kind of another smooth transition into him being kind of pushed aside, because that's the right move with all these allegations being shown, and then especially the coercion. I mean, that whole thing with another wrestler, I don't understand how he can be head of creative when he's done that to a wrestler. How can he work directly with the wrestlers when that's been involved? And that's one of the allegations here. So yeah, the right move, I think, as a company as a whole and a PR decision, is to remove him from that position, but I don't see it happening.
No. And I mean, we must stress, of course, innocent until proven otherwise.
Yes.
Like nothing has come out to say he absolutely did this. There's just, I think there's a lot of damning evidence. We'll put it that way. Like, we're not going to say Vince McMahon definitely did all these things, because we can't make that kind of decision. There is an investigation underway. However, I forgot to say at the start that if you would like to share your thoughts on this topic or any wrestling topics of the week or anything you just want to tell us about, you can do so. Head to WrestleTalk.com/support, and we will read out any chats over $5 at the end of the show. So you can do that throughout the show. You can talk to us about absolutely anything. What I did say earlier was that I was going to read out the WWE statement on the matter. This was about an hour ago now, where they simply released a very, very short statement. You'd have thought that something like this might be a long statement, but it's really not. It literally is. WWE today announced that effective immediately, Paul Levesque will resume his executive position as EVP of Talent Relations. And then a quote from Triple H says, I look forward to returning to my prior position as head of Talent Relations. I'm healthy, fired up, and ready to take charge. Now, I think one of the key parts of that is, of course, that he's saying he is healthy. Now, as you mentioned earlier, we had that health scare last year, as was described as a cardiac event, and was described by many news sources as actually an incredibly serious situation where there were fears that he could die. He has since gone on record and an interview last year. Was it last year? Was it end of last year? I believe it was end of last year or early this year.
I believe it was earlier this year with Stephen A. Smith.
Time is whatever. But so he's done an interview to say that he very, very nearly died, and he is now fitted with a defibrillator. So when we heard a few weeks ago that he was back in NXT, not back at NXT, but back at the Performance Center, telling people he was back, it was fantastic to hear. Now, this is even better news. Because it means that he now feels personally, and Triple H doesn't strike me as someone who would rush into a situation like this, and he seems an incredibly sensible man. So it's great to hear that he is back in this position, and I mean, personally, I'm thrilled for him, for his family, and I wonder what it's going to do, for example, to releases in the future. Because whenever there is a bunch of releases in WWE, you always hear, oh, they all received a call, or they received a text, or they received an email from John Laurinaitis saying, basically, budget cuts. Do you think, now that Stephanie McMahon is in charge, now that Triple H is head of talent relations, and is his job, if there are going to be any releases, to do the releasing, to actually speak to talent, do you think the process is going to change, or do you think it's going to be exactly the same as it always has been, and even if it is very similar to how it always has been, will Triple H handle it in a more, let's say, ethical manner?
Yeah, I would have to think yes, because we have evidence that he has kind of done different releases in a different type of way. You've had, several stars that have been released talk about Triple H, calling them on the phone and having that conversation with him. More importantly, you had the whole Samoa Joe situation where he was released from the company, and then he texts Triple H to be like, thank you for everything. And Triple H immediately called him like, nope, we're getting you back in the door. We're getting you back over here because I need you. If we're not going to need you on the main roster for commentary, I need you in NXT to be a part of my team, to be a part of recruitment. And then eventually that led to Samoa Joe becoming, I guess he was the enforcer for the GM, and then eventually come back into the ring. So you can see already that Triple H has a closer relationship with the stars, with the talent, than John Laurinaitis, from all evidence that we've heard, he's ever had with talent in general. I think Triple H knows how to, work around and communicate with them a lot better. Yes, I'm not saying that there's not going to be budget cuts, because this is WWE. If they need to kind of crunch the numbers and Nick Khan makes that decision that we need to cut, X, Y, and Z, maybe he'll eventually realize that they have a whole NXT UK. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there. But I think that Triple H is the type of person that can be that filter and be able to communicate it a little bit better than John Laurinaitis has done over the past year.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, all of the reports that have come out since John Laurinaitis went on administrative leave are that talent were not upset at this at all. And in fact, it seems like a lot of people are relieved to see the back of him. Now, his job is not, not to say that his job is an easy one. Absolutely not. Like, they're working as head of talent relations in a wrestling company, especially a wrestling company like WWE, which is unfortunately known for releasing lots of talent, not having perhaps the most ethical business practices, or sort of being friendly when it decides that people need to be released, is not an easy job. However, it seems like despite that, there was still a lot of animosity towards John Laurinaitis. Now, having Triple H, I think, is going to be a massive morale boost, as I've said before, and I just think it's going to be a really, really positive move for WWE, sort of just going into the next 5, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever it is, having Triple H, who, and I'm not saying, obviously John Laurinaitis was a wrestler himself. He had a career, but Triple H is such a WWE guy, and he is so well respected for his, not just his time in the ring, but his time like out of the ring, his time creating NXT, making NXT the black and gold brand anyway, which is the NXT that, I mean, a lot of people know and love and still wish it was. He's got that kind of, like, he's got desirable baggage. That is what you want from someone who you are basically, that's the guy you want to go to. Now, I don't know, I've never worked with John Laurinaitis, but I got the impression that people didn't want to talk to him, or didn't feel like they could go to him with anything, because him and Bruce Pritchard are such Vince McMahon guys that, I don't know, maybe you would worry that if you said, "Oh, John, I'm not very happy about something," that he goes then straight to Vince, goes, "They've been moaning about this." Yeah. And then they're like, so maybe you don't feel comfortable doing that. However, I feel like you feel more comfortable going to Triple H, because while he's your boss, he's also like a sort of a father figure, a friend figure. Now, I don't know. It just feels like that's where you'd want to work there now.
Yeah,
a lot more than you would previously.
Yeah, it's gonna give people kind of that, extra boost that they need to kind of speak up if they have an issue, if they need time off. I think they're gonna feel more comfortable going to Triple H than anyone else. I think if Triple H wasn't in this position, I think he would still kind of be a communication factor for the talent to kind of tell him things that would go to John Laurinaitis if he was still in this position. So I think it is gonna, empower a lot of the stars because they view Triple H as this legend, as this hero, as this mentor in a lot of ways. And like I said, a lot of the talent, when you look up and down the roster, all of them came through NXT. So they've had to deal with Triple H directly. And we've had, superstars who are not with WWE. For example, more recently, EC3 did an interview and he was like, Vince McMahon, he didn't see the leader that we've all heard about in the past to him. He said that to him, quote unquote, he was a feeble old man, but with Triple H, he had a much better like leadership position, and he felt that leadership immediately in the way he communicated with them, in the way that he dealt with the other superstars. I do have a question for you though, because we just talked about how Bruce Pritchard, couldn't handle both positions as, executive director of creative and, talent relations, head of talent relations. Do you think that Triple H taking this position is WWE's way of preventing him from taking the role of head of creative if Vince McMahon has to step back or step down in some way?
Oh, possibly. It could absolutely be that. I mean, what I was going to suggest was, what does this mean for people like Paul Heyman? So obviously Paul Heyman was the executive director of Raw or SmackDown, which it was SmackDown,
Raw,
wasn't it?
yeah.
Was it
No,
Raw?
it was Raw.
Okay, it was Raw.
Eric Bischoff for
Eric
like
Bischoff, yeah.
was
Now,
SmackDown.
You got to wonder if Vince steps down, there is someone like, if it's not going to be Triple H, what about like someone like Paul Heyman? Because if Vince steps down, then he's not caught. Like he might still find a way to do it, but he is technically not supposed to be calling the shots anymore. So does that open up positions to people who aren't Vince McMahon? Yes, Ben, like Paul Heyman, because obviously Paul Heyman is very valuable to WWE, but it's clear that he has different ideas of what is a good wrestling show in 2022. I mean, we saw the guys that Paul Heyman tried to push when he became executive director of Raw. We saw Aleister Black getting a push. We saw Ricochet being pushed. We saw all these kind of smaller but clearly incredibly talented guys being pushed. And having watched Triple H in charge of NXT, that's the kind of guy he wouldn't want to push as well. Obviously, there's space for the monsters, there's space for the 7'3" giants, and there's space for the kind of body guys. But if Triple H, for example, is head of talent is head of talent relations, and you've got someone like Paul Heyman in charge of creative, that's an incredibly exciting duo for me.
Yeah.
Now, in response to your question, it could be that. You'd like to think WWE aren't thinking that far ahead, but knowing them as we do, it could absolutely be what they're doing. It could be that Vince McMahon has seen what Triple H was doing in NXT. He's gone, I don't like that, we'll change it. And now it's, I would say, a lot of people would say objectively a worse TV show and a worse product. But it's got Vince McMahon's fingerprints all over it. So I don't think that that's what they're doing, but it could absolutely be. It could now be a hurdle for Triple H if he ever wanted. If Vince left and he was like, well, actually, I'd quite like to put my name in the hat for that position. You could see it being given to Bruce Pritchard, or I don't know. Maybe they bring in someone else. Maybe Nick Khan fancies a go at creative. I don't know if there are other names within the world of wrestling who WWE would go, okay, well, Vince is gone and we need someone who can run creative. Like, in my mind, as soon as I hear that, I go Paul Heyman.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like, I very much enjoyed Paul Heyman's Monday Night Raw a lot better than what we got afterwards. I felt like, Paul Heyman in a lot of ways was him in the creative role it was one of the casualties of the pandemic era, because, you know, Vince was able to kind of look at everything and say, well, I don't want this way. I want Bruce over here. I want Bruce to, you know, be the executive director for both shows, because then I have my hands in the cookie jar for both shows. I'm still the head of creative, and now I have my number one yes man in that position that is kind of the filter to what I want to, you know, have done on both shows. So I felt like, you know, Paul Heyman was so crucial to, you know, Ricochet getting a push, Aleister Black, but he also looked out for what Vince would want in like guys like Riddick Moss, Madcap Moss. Like we saw the promo on SmackDown last week where he said the truth. He was like, you got your first break because of me. I put the 24/7 title on you. I was pushing you. I put you on Monday Night Raw your first time on the main roster. That was all because of me, and that was the truth. He really did that. And he also gave the opportunity and called up you know, Austin Theory, and he was a big component in bringing the Street Profits to the main roster. So we still see kind of his fingerprints of what he wanted to bring to Monday Night Raw on the main roster right now. And, you know, the Street Profits, I think we already are hearing the rumors about Montez Ford being one of those future stars. So those are 3 future stars that Vince is seeing some big stuff in the future that Paul Heyman brought. So Paul Heyman in creative makes me actually excited. It makes me much more excited than even a change to TV 14. I saw everybody get excited about that, but I much rather, if it is going to be TV 14, Paul Heyman is the perfect person to be the head of creative if it's TV 14.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think we've probably said as much as we could say on this. I will just remind people what the story is. It's that Triple H has been made and announced as the new EVP of Talent Relations, replacing John Laurinaitis in that role. I guess also replacing Bruce Pritchard. Bruce Pritchard has not left the company, but he will no longer be in charge of that role. We will go through some Ultra Chats about this topic right now, and then we will discuss the topic we were originally going to discuss, because some people may have come to hear us talk about that. First of all, on the Triple H news, Mayor of Painesville Dan said, "Hello, Andy. Hello, SP3. You're fantastic, fantastic people. So wonderful to have you two in the show today. Triple H has done an incredible job back then in regards to backstage morale and hiring. May it continue. He is fantastic in that position." And yet, Dan makes a good point in terms of hiring as well. Now, WWE in the past has made a bit of a habit of hiring everyone they possibly can, in sort of possibly to take them away from other companies. Their current sort of goal, it seems, is to look at more college athletes who they can turn from sort of they can make stars themselves, and then go, oh, this is a WWE guy. I don't know whether that's a very subtle dig at perhaps AEW going, oh, look, well, they're taking all our guys, but we're making stars in WWE. Now, they are still looking. Like, there was a report, I believe, in the Observer newsletter, or from the Observer at least, that while they are looking mainly at college stars and track athletes and wrestlers, obviously we had Gable Steveson coming up, and his brother Bobby Steveson is Damon Kemp in NXT. Apparently is very, very high on him behind the scenes. But they will still be looking at kind of independence. And you've got to think that that's something that Triple H would want to try and sort of promote as well.
Yeah, he's got to want to kind of get that was what changed kind of the wrestling style for WWE, and the reason why we have guys like Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, you know, in prime positions as like main eventers, and it's improved overall. Like, you, no matter what happens on the week-to-week television with Raw and SmackDown, you know, when a pay-per-view, a premium live event as they call it, happens, they have the roster that can always deliver great matches, and a lot of that comes down to a bunch of the stars that they recruited from the independent scene. And I've also said in the past that WWE really, you know, they want to make their own stars, but you are more likely to be treated like a star if you've made your name outside of it. And they just recently signed like Logan Paul. You know, you've seen the treatment of Ronda Rousey since she's come to WWE. And even when you look at Brock Lesnar, yes, Brock Lesnar was a huge star for them in 2002 to 2014, but it was going to UFC and becoming a huge star there that has made him their prominent guy since he's returned. So I think it's a little bit of both that WWE wants, but having a name on the independent scene seems to kind of catch the attention of Triple H the most. So I think it is going to improve kind of the hiring of who they bring into the company.
And thinking sort of further down the line, I mean, if you are, let's say, an AEW guy who might not be as happy as you'd want to be in AEW, or you're getting towards the end of your contract, let's say this is in 2 years, 3 years time, and you're weighing up your options, and you look at WWE, let's say Vince isn't there anymore, and the people in charge are Stephanie McMahon, Triple H. To me, that's a much more kind of attractive proposition. Like, I would like, oh, would you like to work under Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis, or would you like to work under Stephanie McMahon and Triple H? To me, that's an absolute no-brainer. I would rather do that. And if there are guys like MJF, for example, who are already wondering or considering a move to WWE once their AEW contracts expire, could we see a lot more people now joining WWE from AEW because of the change of management?
Yeah, because they've been and a lot of guys that maybe have gone through WWE and then gone to AEW will be looking back now like, well, my main reason why I wanted to go to AEW because I thought the grass was greener on the other side. I preferred working for someone like Tony that's a genuine wrestling fan than Vince McMahon that kind of doesn't have his finger on the pulse as much as he's done in the past. You look at Triple H and Stephanie and you're going to be like, well, I feel like they have their finger on the pulse, so it makes it more tantalizing. And for a guy like MJF, who's already kind of, disgruntled in AEW, he's going to be looking at Triple H as one of his, inspirations, one of his heroes. He's a genuine wrestling fan from since he was young. So he's going to look at Triple H and be like, that's the guy I want to talk to. And we've even heard it from the EVPs of All Elite Wrestling, Young Bucks and Kenny Omega said Triple H was the best guy that they talked to and the only reason they even considered going to WWE before AEW started. So yeah, Triple H is going to make the grass look much greener on the other side for AEW guys.
Sure. No, absolutely. We'll do some more. We'll do some more Ultra Chats. If you would like to Ultra Chat, WrestleTalk.com/support. You can Ultra Chat us about anything you like. Ten Ruzza has donated to say, evolution is a mystery, full of change that no one sees. Clock makes a fool of history. Just in case you've forgotten, let me tell you, just in the hell I am. So good to see the shift in semi-power. Just needs Steph permanent and Heyman on creative. That's exactly what we said. Valab Mamidipudi has been a member for 15 months in a row. Well done. I can't clap while I'm holding this. Fantastic news. He says, truly happy for all the talent in the company. There's no one on the payroll who'd do the job better anyway. Absolutely correct. Tenruza again says, we need Jeremy Borash. Heyman doing creative under Hunter as well. HBK is then put solely in charge of NXT. I think NXT UK being fused into NXT and shutting down the UK branch would be better and more streamlined. I don't know what this means for Shane O'Mac. I don't know what it means for Shane O'Mac either. Obviously, there was, what WWE, or at least Vince McMahon, saw as a bit of an attitude problem. A bit of a wanting to put himself too much in the main event, wanting to give himself the limelight. But, I mean, do you see Shane coming back, even if it's somewhere down the line?
Maybe down the line, because if this was a question back in like 2011, 2012, I would say no. And then he came back in 2016. So I'm not going to say no, that he can probably come back in the future. And we've even seen him come back since that whole falling out happened. He was backstage at WrestleMania this year. I mean, we haven't seen him, back on camera, but he has been kind of tiptoeing himself back into the fold. But I mean, I always viewed Shane McMahon as like the son who could have like went to like the college of the dad. He had a nice house ready for him, and he decided to sell cigarettes by the highway. And like he's like, and every like you could just see how Vince treats Shane McMahon by how he says happy birthday to him compared to WWE superstars. That tells
happy
you
birthday,
how Vince
Shane. Ari F. Hand Hoko says, "Hey guys, thanks for the news. If we refer to different wrestlers' testimony towards Triple H, I'm sure this is heading into a better direction for the wrestlers." Now, I don't understand this next bit. You can probably explain. SP3, you had your Joe Gacy face when agreeing with Andy, and I wonder why. Cheers from Japan.
Joe Gacy is all
well,
about inclusion.
I know who that is. Yeah.
And acceptance, and I accepted everything that Andy had to say. So that's might have been why I had my Joe Gacy, face.
Right. Okay. Got it. And before we get on to the next topic, we will do this final one from Tenrosa again. So thank you so much. Does Triple H change how things are dealt with Sasha and Naomi? Does it make MJF in 2024 even more of a possibility now as to where he goes? Will people like Roddy Strong want to stay and Gargano want to get back? Interesting. Lads, we don't care about Roman Brock. We'll discuss it anyway. Yeah, I mean, you made lots of really good points. I think Sasha and Naomi are probably gone now. It looks very much like they are. But as we said, absolutely makes the MJF situation more interesting. And it could absolutely make people like Johnny Gargano want to come back. I mean, if you get a text from Triple H saying, "Hey Johnny, I know you probably were going to go to AEW, but I'm in charge now. Would you like to come back to WWE? And I'll make sure that you are, I don't know, you have a headline match at next year's WrestleMania." Because that's one of those things that Johnny Gargano has said in an interview since he left was, "I still want to wrestle at WrestleMania." Now, and there's a lot of people, like there will be people in AEW who are diehard AEW guys, but if you give them a chance to wrestle at WrestleMania under Triple H's sort of tutelage and kind of influence, then that's going to be a lot more enticing now.
Yeah, most definitely. I've always felt like Johnny Gargano, if he is going to return to wrestling, it is going to be in WWE, because he's always said there's so many things that he wants to accomplish on the main roster. Not just, being at WrestleMania. He wants to be Intercontinental Championship. I don't understand, because the Intercontinental Championship hasn't been defended on a WWE premium live event since WrestleMania 37, but he still wants it. That was something that he grew up watching. That's the workhorse title. So he still wants to achieve that. He still wants to have a match at WrestleMania. I think Johnny Gargano, seeing Triple H there, and Triple H being the person he directly talks to about coming back in a main roster role, I think that's much more, realistic that he's going to come back to WWE. The Sasha Naomi was the one that kind of made me kind of interested, because Sasha does have a really good relationship with Triple H. That was kind of Papa H when she was in NXT. So maybe, and I've said this on other platforms, and I'll say it here, I think Sasha Banks is going to take a couple of years away from WWE. And I think that the fact that she can rebuild her brand, I don't think she's automatically going to go to AEW, but she can get roles in Hollywood, do different business ventures. And that's going to look better for WWE, regardless of where their relationship is at right now. I think WWE will treat Sasha Banks 1000% better if she rebuilds her brand and becomes a star outside of the WWE bubble. So Triple H being there might be the bridge that they need.
Absolutely. We will. Do you know what? We'll talk just for a couple of minutes about the Brock and Roman stuff. But I've seen a couple of people asking on the Friday podcast. There is always a team name. Now there's Pete and Denise, which is Team Penice. We've got Team Danuke. We've got Team. What's Adam's one? I don't even know. Dadam. Team Dendum. Anyway. And I was wondering what our team name is, and I realized that it's obviously Team Spandex.
I love it.
There you go. So SP, and there you go. So that clears that up. I made this just before we started. We look very happy to be in spandex.
I was here for a few minutes behind the scenes, and I was wondering what you were doing too, because I saw you in the background looking
Oh
very
right, yeah.
concentrated. I'm like, is he like working on the thumbnail or something?
Yeah, I wasn't. This is what I was working on. Yeah, Amanda, I had time to make that. It took me 5 or 6 seconds. I will remove it. There you go. Don't worry. I won't put anything else stupid on the screen.
I'm an ass man. Yeah, I'm an ass man.
Oh, sorry, Pete. I clicked it accidentally. So yeah, what we were going to talk about, we'll talk about it for 5 minutes before we do the rest of the super chats and get out of here. Brock versus Roman. Now, are you excited? Were you excited when this match was announced a few weeks ago? And the real question is, do you think that this is ruining WWE TV? Because the report came out today in the Observer newsletter that WWE are deliberately, for whatever reason, not booking these guys on the same show in the build to what they think the second biggest wrestling show of the year. Like, undeniably, is the second biggest wrestling show of the entire year. No matter whether you like the Royal Rumble, I guess that's probably the third, but it's baffling to me that they are deliberately doing this. First of all, they are saying, no, we don't want Roman and Brock on the same show when it is your main event for SummerSlam. And because Roman's got both belts, yes, that's fine. Roman's got both belts, but for me, what it's doing is it means that no one else can become a star until this match is over with. And if Brock's coming back to win, I don't know where you go from there. But if Brock's coming back to lose, that's just Brock coming back to lose. And so what, like, is that him for a while? Because you've had him lose at WrestleMania and you go, Brock, can you come back and lose again at SummerSlam? Now, Brock always feels like the kind of guy who will be able to come back and be like, oh, but I'm Brock Lesnar. But if you just keep feeding into Roman Reigns and then he just loses, then it feels like, why couldn't you just built someone else?
And they had people that they could have gone with in this route. Like, instead of doing the stipulation for Riddle before his one match with Roman Reigns, he could have replaced, Randy Orton and continued his story of going after the bloodline. Seth Rollins, you had a perfectly good Seth Rollins sitting right there, the guy that is the only person that Roman Reigns hasn't defeated in this title run. He lost to him by disqualification at the Royal Rumble. You could have ran it back at SummerSlam. I still think to this day that Seth Rollins should have just turned babyface after the Cody Rhodes matchup, and he could have been on the road to verse Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. There was so many other options. I feel like they just pushed the panic button way too fast. They was like, well, Cody's out. Well, Randy's out. We have no one. Brock Lesnar. Let's just call up Brock.
Push the Brock Lesnar button. It'll be fine. Do you think the theory's cashing in straight afterwards? Do you think that they're going to be so beat up that he comes down and just sort of, I don't know if he pins Roman Reigns or the winner of the match, does he get both belts? I mean, I don't know how that'll work.
I'm guessing so, because they've kind of gotten to the point with this build, because they've kept Brock and Roman separated and used Theory so much, they kind of have to have him cash in, because they have talked about him nonstop in this whole build up about him cashing in. He's going to get involved, that he is kind of like the third most important person in this whole buildup that's supposed to be about Brock and Roman having their last match, last man standing. I made the joke that it's a best of 7 between Brock and Roman, because this is their 7th singles match. So this is the 7th and final. This is the conclusion of the series. This is the longest 7-game series in the history of sports and entertainment. So they have built it like that, but they've also built it on the back of Theory cashing in. I don't think Theory's going to cash in successfully. I can't realistically see a world where Theory cashes in and pins Brock Lesnar. I can't see a world where he cashes in and pins Roman Reigns. So they're literally building this whole thing around Theory cashing in and potentially losing.
But what's the point? What's the point of that? That doesn't do anything for anyone. It makes him look like an idiot. Like, you saw what that did for like Baron Corbin. Like, oh, great, Baron Corbin immediately lost the briefcase. Yes, that he was been in a bit of sort of like he had a bit of a heat backstage beforehand, but like this doesn't make any sense to me. Like I can only see him winning the belts and then dropping them.
Yeah,
Like he can win both belts. Roman takes some time out until SummerSlam, and then you've got Survivor Series, your next big show, and that's not until November. So and Roman has signed a contract with fewer dates on it. So have Theory win it. I don't know. Cody comes back, beats Theory at the Saudi show or whatever, wins one of the belts, and like give Theory that run, make him like one of the youngest WWE champions of all time. I just feel like that's a better way of doing it. Yes, I don't want to see Roman lose, but I don't feel like Roman versus The Rock, if that's the direction they're going for next year, needs the title. Brock doesn't need to be in WWE at the moment. Like he can come back at whenever he wants, and it'll still feel like a big deal because it's Brock Lesnar. So I don't know. I can't see any way that this will go well, but I think the better way is still for Theory to win. And like Roman, in terms of betting odds, is the massive favorite to win this. And obviously, smart money may come in close to the time, but you've got to think Roman Reigns is winning this. Otherwise, I feel like his reign is massively tarnished. You just have him, if you have him lose clean to Brock Lesnar, unless there is some kind of, I'm trying to think of a way that they can have Brock win without it being dumb. Like, I don't know, The Rock comes back. The Rock comes back, interferes, the Usos side with The Rock, and then everyone turns on Roman. And then The Rock doesn't appear until WrestleMania. I can't see a way of doing this that is intelligent, or Roman has been booked so strong, which isn't a bad thing, but he's been booked to the point where any loss is going to feel really weird right now.
Yeah, because like I felt like months ago it was like we had so many people we thought could beat Roman. So to have him then Brock Lesnar be the person to end the reign, and we saw the news earlier today that Mattel has put out this new Brock figure with both title belts.
I'm not reading too much into that.
No, I'm not reading too much into it either, but it does make you think like WWE and Vince McMahon is the type to say, oh, everyone thinks Roman's going to win, so let's fool them. Let's swerve them all and have Brock get the win. This would be such a waste of the past, 700 days, 2 years that this man has held the Universal Championship. That is all going to end at the hands of Brock Lesnar. But I think the worst option in that is that all of this will end for the Theory, the selfie guy. Like if this was Theory, who was, the Austin Theory that I saw in Evolve all those years ago. The first person that I ever interviewed in person was Austin Theory when he was a part of Evolve.
I imagine he'll mention that if he wins the belt.
Of course, he's going to be like, thank you to SP3 for always, being behind me and never looking me up on Google. But yeah, I have heard him say all the things that he wanted to achieve. And this is one of his biggest dreams, is to win the WWE Championship. But the way they have presented him on television, he does not feel like a main eventer at all. At all. He does not feel like the guy that should end this Roman Reigns run. Like Braun Breaker on NXT 2.0, for all the things we say about NXT 2.0, he feels more worthy than Theory to be the guy to end this Roman Reigns run. So it just would feel like a damper.
He doesn't feel, and putting my WWE hat on, he doesn't feel like a mainstream enough name to be a champion right now. It is a last man standing match. We've got to remember it is a last man standing match, which absolutely opens up a lot more opportunities. Like Roman and Brock take a huge fall off, whatever they want, and then Theory pins one or the other. That is a way of protecting the guys. Like let's say they fall off something huge. Okay, fancy booking. Brock pushes Roman off something massive. Roman is sort of lying there, and before Brock can climb down, Theory runs out, cashes in, and pins him. Like that's the sort of thing you can absolutely see them doing. Now, I don't know whether that makes any better, but at least it kind of protects. Like, it is a smart gimmick match to have if you're going to pin one of the two top guys in your company.
Well, they can run it back 2 things in this last man standing match. The first ever last man standing match between The Rock and Mankind, it ended in a draw. So they could do a draw here. I don't
want to draw.
But that's gonna make people think that
the
Theory
storyline isn't
down.
there for a draw. Like,
No, it's not.
It would be AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura at WrestleMania. Oh, he got kicked in the penis. Okay, right, yeah, and it will feel like such a sort of anticlimax. It'll be. I hope that doesn't happen. I'd rather Theory came out, to be honest. And then, like I say, you can have Theory lose to two guys you actually want. Like, have Theory booked on the same night twice, and then he can lose. Yeah. He doesn't look as bad. Like, let's say he puts in a really good performance in his first match against Cody Rhodes, for example, and then as a babyface winning the belt, like he loses the WWE Championship to Cody Rhodes. He then has to defend the Universal Championship in the same night against a heel. Loses that, but that's almost like maybe a sort of like a turn for him as well. He can be the kind of the guy who really tried to hold on to his belts, but failed. So there are ways of doing this well, but I doubt whether they'll do them that way.
Yeah, I'm just now thinking that that's what WWE is going to do, though. Now I put it in my own head that WWE is going to have Brock and Roman do a ring breaking, the superplex off the top, and the ring's going to break, because that's how Roman, remember, the ring broke when Roman first won the Universal Championship. So the ring breaks, they both don't answer the count of 10, then we hear Theory's music come out, he comes out, and then Roman beats him. And that's how he successfully defends the WWE Undisputed Universal Championship. That's how you have Brock. You protect Brock Lesnar so he doesn't just come back for a loss, and you have Roman Reigns end the night with both titles, and he actually beats someone. I put it in my own head. I'm sorry.
I hope not. Anyway, so I don't get more sad, we will do our last Ultra Chats before we get out of here. If you would like to send a last-minute Ultra Chat, you've got a couple of minutes. It is WrestleTalk.com/support, and we will read out any donation over $5. Mr. Kajili, Mr. CJ Lilly says, "Hey, gang, I just wanted to ask your opinion on the latest Bray tease and what you thought it could mean. I think you could return to team with Edge and Ray against Judgment Day. If Dom turns on Ray, when Rhea comes back, Alexa can join Bray again, reunite them." I mean, the Triple H stuff could entice Bray. I don't think so right now. I think Bray Wyatt is being Bray Wyatt, which is just deeply confusing. I think he's having a lot of fun. There's kind of exciting people, and the more he does it, the more excited, and the more kind of his eventual return to wherever he goes, that'll be great. But I can't see him returning to be part of a trio to face Judgment Day. That feels you'd want him to return in a more marquee spot, whether it's for AW or for WWE or for whoever he goes to next.
Yeah, I think if Bray Wyatt does return to wrestling, it is going to be for WWE, but I do think you're right that he's just trying to draw up some buzz around his name, and that's why just the littlest thing he could do is change his Twitter bio. It gets people talking, it creates all these headlines, and it gets people excited about the possibility of him coming back, but him coming back to verse the Judgment Day, which has kind of been such a flat stable since they got rid of Edge for some reason that I still don't understand. He was holding them back even though he brought them together. I don't understand that. Still don't, but I don't feel like that's the type of big return that he would want with all the buzz and it being over a year since he was released from WWE. And at that time, Triple H was in talent relations. So I don't think Triple H's return is that kind of that bridge to get over for them the same way that I do for someone like a Sasha Banks.
Yeah, no, you're right. Another one from Mr. CJ Lilly says, by the way, my cat was attacking me, which is why I moved back. I feel after her interviews where she said Bray wanted her to continue the character, and Alexa doing nothing right now. The return of the Twisted Union could be epic. And on that note, it shows how broken creative a versatile person like Alexa has. Nothing. Yeah, I don't think so. No, I don't think that Bray would want that. I don't think that worked for him. I know people enjoyed it, but I think it did go a bit far for me personally. It is a shame that Alexa hasn't had a lot to do. However, I really like Bianca Belair, and I think she's a great champion. Having her face Becky Lynch at SummerSlam, where obviously all the stuff happened last year with Becky returning and winning in 3 seconds, that's the storyline is there. Alexa Bliss is still very much a WWE favorite. She's got the look, she's got the story, she's got the history, being multiple-time champion. Don't rule Alexa Bliss out at all. She will be back in the main title scene. She will become a multi-time women's champion again. She will win several more titles, I think. I think it's one of those things where, because the women's division isn't as shown as the men's division, you just have to be a bit more patient, which I know is difficult when you are, like Mr. Lilly is such a big fan of Alexa. It is difficult for that kind of, you want your favorites to do well. But I think in some situations you just need to, I mean, the draft's coming up. Shove Alexa on SmackDown. Because I feel like on Raw there isn't a lot of time for her right now, so it might be nice for her to have a complete character refresh, just become the goddess again, which I think is a lot of people's favorite side of Alexa Bliss.
Yeah, and has Alexa Bliss lost a singles match since her return? I think it's too early to say that, they've moved on or they don't care about Alexa Bliss, because she's one of the more protected women on this roster. From my recollection, she has not lost a singles match since her return. She wins every week on Monday Night Raw. I think they're just keeping her at a certain position until they need her in the Raw Women's title scene, and I think that's going to be much different after SummerSlam, when the Becky Bianca story is finally done.
Yeah, you're right. And I'm sure you're right about the Alexa not losing a match either, because you know more than I do. Caleb has been a member for 13 months in a row. Thank you very much, Caleb. Randy and Datson and Mr. Mocker himself, SP3, how are things? Have you heard of the game Stray? If not, the MC is a cat. The Wrestle lads would love it. It is a game that I will be getting. My lady partner is a massive fan of cats, which is why we have 2 of them. Not to say I don't like my cats. It's just we wouldn't have cats if it wasn't for her. But yes, you play as a cat and you jump around, jump up, and get down. So I don't know. I'm sure it's wonderful. Have you heard of it? Are you going to be playing it?
No, this is all news to me. Maybe that'll be something that I could do.
RPG. You are a cat, and I guess I don't know. I don't really know much about it, but I have seen it, and I'm sure it'll be very fun. And to answer how we are, we're great. We're great. Thank you very much.
I'm doing well. I do see people are telling me that she lost to Liv Morgan. I did not remember that because there you go. Thank you guys. I appreciate that, because I was like, from my recollection, she hasn't lost much, but she's lost one time to Liv Morgan. So hey.
Keenan Currington has said, "Good morning. Hope you two have a wonderful day. Quick story. I was watching AWE. I was watching AWE a few weeks back. My wife walks in and hears 'Scissor me, Daddy.' She looks up at me and goes, 'This is what you watch when I'm not around.'" Well, it could have been worse. It could have been worse. You could have been, I don't know, you could have been staring at something really weird, like this. Yes. But you weren't. Yeah.
Scissor me, Daddy spandex. Scissor me.
Well, that's not something I thought you'd be telling me today. Charles Berg has been a member for 15 months in a row. Hello, boys. I hope you have a wonderful day and eat your favorite food for dinner. I actually am. I'm having spaghetti bolognese. Same thing to the mods and the chat. What are you having for dinner?
I have no idea. I gotta ask the missus. Missus is making dinner tonight, so I hope it's my favorite. My favorite.
I'm sure it will be. I'm sure it will be.
Chicken teriyaki. There you go.
Amanda Savage. Hello, Amanda. Has been a member for 15 months in a row. Shout out to Spandex and Sanchez, Connell, Nate, and Liam, who work so hard every single day to bring everyone all the breaking news 24/7. And what's the website? Oh, it's WrestleTalk.com. Head over there for all your wrestling news. Do be sure to make it your homepage. We cover all the shows. We cover all the latest. We got features about everything you'd ever want. And we've got something in the pipeline coming up soon, which should be very exciting, but we can't announce that yet. But for now, I believe that is all of the Super Chat, Ultra Chats. So we will call it a day there. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching. Head over to the WrestleTalk channel, subscribe there, watch Pete's news from earlier today. I believe it was Pete. Or Laurie, but I think it was Pete. Subscribe to the WrestleTalk podcast channel down below. Head over to partsFUNknown. Subscribe to that. Head over to No Rolls Barred. Subscribe to that. Head over to WrestleTalk.com. Head over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk. SP3, is there anything you'd like to plug?
True Hill Heat YouTube channel. That's my channel over there. I'll be live at 7 p.m. UK previewing ROH Death Before Dishonor. So True Hill Heat.
Excellent. And we will be back tomorrow as well on WrestleTalk Podcast to review SmackDown. Back on, I do not believe we are doing a Ring of Honor review, unfortunately, but we will be back on Tuesday and next week for all our regular content. And then, of course, we've got live reactions for SummerSlam next weekend with Luke and Sullivan. So that will be a wonderful show to watch. But for now, thank you very much, SP3. Thank you all for watching.